This is Autoline Daily, the show dedicated to enthusiasts of the global automotive industry. Uber seems super bullish on robotaxis and is willing to back that up financially. It announced that it's investing hundreds of millions of dollars into Lucid and Nuro to launch a robotaxi fleet next year. And thanks to regulatory filings, we know that $300 million is going to Lucid. The EV maker says some of that money will go towards developing the self-driving tech with Nuro. Right now, they're testing versions of the Graphite SUV fitted with Nuro's Level 4 capable autonomous system at the AV company's test track in Las Vegas. The plan is to launch 20,000 or more of these Graphite robotaxis over the next 6 years, which will be owned and operated by Uber and its third-party partners. Lucid's stock price shot up over 50% yesterday after the investment from Uber, and the EV maker also announced a 1-for-10 reverse stock split, meaning that for every 10 existing shares that are held by shareholders will now be combined into one new share. It's meant to boost share price, which currently sits at a little over $3. But Lucid claims it's not about the fear of being delisted, rather to attract larger investors. Now let's go back to Uber and robotaxis for a moment, because if you watch this show, you know that Uber has been going a bit robotaxi crazy. In the US, it has deals with Waymo, Volkswagen, and now Lucid, and for international markets, it recently partnered with China's Baidu. It looks like investors really like the path that Uber is taking, with the company now worth more than most automakers. Sales of used high-end luxury vehicles are probably going to go through the roof in China. The country hits ultra-luxury goods, including cars, with an extra tax called a consumption tax. And China just lowered the starting price at which vehicles are slapped with that tax. It's now applied if the transaction price goes over $125,000, which is a drop of about $56,000 compared to before. For the first time, new energy vehicles will be taxed as well. But pure BEVs and fuel cells will only be taxed after the sale. Any ICE-based vehicle will be taxed at production or import and after the sale, which now also includes optional features, customization, and after-sales services. But I say the sale of used high-end luxury vehicles will probably shoot up because the tax will no longer be applied to them, regardless of the price or when the vehicle was registered. We've already seen automakers and dealers in China abuse selling and exporting vehicles that are labeled as used but have no or very few miles on them. And it would seem this new tax policy for used high-end luxury vehicles could promote the same behavior. Faraday Future is trying to make a comeback with a minivan. The company revealed its new model called the FX Super One at an event in LA yesterday. The grille of this thing is basically a big TV screen that can have virtually any look and also uses sensors and AI to express emotion and communicate with other road users. The Super One will feature LiDAR as well and shows off a luxury interior and is planned to launch with all-wheel drive and 2 powertrains, pure battery electric and a PHEV at a later date. The company says it's gotten over $10,100 pre-orders and has raised over $105 million in financing to fund its growth strategy, which includes making the new model at its facility in California. However, no word on when that might be, and we've heard a lot of promises from Faraday in the past. It sold less than 20 examples of its $300,000 FF91, which was first shown off in 2017. And $105 million is nowhere near enough to tool up and build a new model at scale. One advantage that Faraday could have is that the Super One is just a rebadged version of a van that's made by one of the brands owned by Chinese automaker Great Wall Motor.
Developing today's vehicles. Issues can happen in an instant. When's the best time to solve a problem? The minute you know you have one. Meet Wireless NeoVi Cloud, your secure, off-the-shelf solution empowering real-time collaboration for quick resolution. With wireless Neovi Cloud, your team can prevent issues before they can escalate. Driver communication data and remote diagnostics to analyze and resolve your problems using OTA, allowing your executives oversight throughout the process. Wireless Neovi Cloud, your vehicle update solution in production and on the road. Intrepid Control Systems, driven by your data.
The Trump administration is planning to significantly ramp up tariffs on graphite from China, a key material that's used for making EV batteries. The Commerce Department issued a preliminary 93.5% tariff on imported Chinese graphite because it says companies were violating anti-dumping laws and that the material was unfairly subsidized. Plus, this will stack on top of existing tariffs, so the effective rate on graphite will be 160%. Battery makers aren't happy and say costs are going to rise since they're heavily reliant on graphite from China, which dominates global production. Last year, the U.S. imported 180,000 metric tons of graphite, and about 2/3 of it came from China. The Commerce Department will make its final decision on the increase by the end of the year. Porsche is planning another round of job cuts to help reduce costs. Earlier this year, the automaker announced it would be cutting 3,900 jobs by 2029, but apparently that wasn't enough. Bloomberg reports that CEO Oliver Blume sent a memo to employees telling them it plans to start negotiations on additional job cuts in the second half of the year. Blume said its current business model, quote, no longer works in its current form. Porsche's profits are taking a hit because of slumping sales in China, and the new U.S. tariffs on car imports are also increasing costs. The automaker is aiming to boost its operating margin to 15 to 17% in the medium term, up from 8.6% in the first quarter of this year. But Porsche isn't alone. Jaguar Land Rover announced it's cutting 500 managerial jobs, also due to slumping sales in China and the cost of U.S. tariffs. It will reduce jobs through voluntary layoffs. According to its latest annual report, JLR's employee costs grew by around $1 billion from 2023 to 2024. And speaking of job cuts, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration is reducing its workforce by 25%. The cuts are part of the Trump administration's voluntary layoff program, and NHTSA could face more job reductions if Congress follows through on proposed budget cuts that are being considered. Here's a surprise. Subaru is going to have a front-wheel drive model, but it might not be what you think. Subaru launched an all-new fully electric model called the Uncharted, which is based on the new electric Toyota CHR. It features a 74.7 kilowatt-hour lithium-ion battery. All-wheel drive versions have an estimated 290 miles of range and 338 horsepower and have a 0 to 60 mile per hour time of under 5 seconds. Front drive models are expected to have more than 300 miles of range and 221 horses. The Uncharted comes standard with a NACS charging port, and it can charge its battery from 10 to 80% in 30 minutes. Inside, the model features a 14-inch infotainment screen, and it's available with a suite of driver assistance technologies. The Uncharted goes on sale in the U.S. in early 2026. But that brings us to the end of today's show. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope that you have a great weekend.
Autoline Daily is brought to you by Intrepid Control Systems. Over-the-air engineering boost your game. And by Ward's is the industry leader for news, data, and analysis. That's why companies across the globe subscribe to our premium service, maybe even your own. Log in for subscriber access now. Check your company's intranet for details and rely on wardsauto.com to keep you informed.